Okay, I'll
Hi.
start. Hi. Hi,
Good
everybody.
afternoon.
Welcome to Bright Future Friday. I'm Kristen, and can our
My name is
guests
Ayana.
introduce themselves?
Yeah. What direction are we going in?
You could go first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Smallwood. I work for IK Multimedia. I'm a software tester there, as well as uh, a technical support representative as well.
I could go next. Hi, my name is Elena Rentz. I work at Johns Hopkins University on their communications team, and I'm a writer and editor for Johns Hopkins Magazine.
Okay. Okay. Our last person, can you introduce yourself? Miss Hannah, I think that says. Yeah. Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, sorry. Sure. My name is Hannah Grabenstein. I am a reporter with PBS News. I work for digital online coverage, and I've been there for about 2.5 years now. I worked there previously too for another 2.5 years. I've been a reporter for like just under 10 years.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Nice to meet you all. Um, and thank you for joining our live stream today. So, it appears I'm doing it by myself, so I'll start off with asking y'all the first question. Um, so who wants to start?
We can
Uh,
go in the same order.
there's another
Okay.
guest as well, and this is like Miss Price. She's in the. She's saying she's here as well.
Oh, is her mic not working?
I am here. I wanted to take a moment to introduce the person who I train, the person who I represent, and that person is me, Sue Fine. I am a professional wrestler, and that's what I will be talking about today.
Okay. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to skip over you. I didn't know
It's-
sometimes.
Sorry for my hammy, stupid stuff.
Nice to meet you. So yeah, we can go in the same order. Tell us a little bit about your career.
So I work for. We make music hardware equipment, things like guitar pedals and synthesizers, things of that nature. We are based in Fort Lauderdale and also headquartered in Italy. Um, I have been working in software testing since I was 19 or 20 years old. Maryland has the second highest concentration, or used to, of video game developers in the nation. And I used to work in a video game store, and then I graduated to working for another video game company. And when that shut down, I joined a software testing house. And after video games is a really weird turnover rate. Like if you, it's kind of like working on movies. So after that, I started playing music, and I've been playing music for the last 15 years. And that's what led me to some of the more arts related jobs that I have now. And I was able to combine my previous work experience with my entertainment experience to get the job I have today.
That's really cool.
Okay, I'll go next. So, my whole life, I wanted to be a writer, and a lot of people kind of made jokes about that. It was like, okay, you're majoring in English in college. I hope you enjoy like taking my Starbucks order later. So, I got a lot of that growing up. But interestingly, I was able to go right from college into a writing career. And so I hope that what you gain from me being here today is that that is actually a viable career path if you want it. So, after college, I went straight into a master's program at Johns Hopkins. It was a Master's of Fine Arts or an MFA in creative writing, which people also had a lot of opinions about, not all positive, where I studied writing fiction actually. So that was about 3 years of school and also teaching. After that, the pandemic happened. So I taught high school English for a year, not my thing. After that, gratefully, I was able to pivot into a writing career. So I work in a field, I guess, that's called communications. So, like, what that means is every organization that exists has some sort of communications team. So if you get like emails from a company you follow, like say you ordered some shoes from Nike and then you got signed up for their email newsletter. Well, that's somebody like me. Somebody is writing those newsletters and sending them out. So I started doing that job for Hopkins on their public health school. So I was writing a lot about different issues in public health, especially COVID because it was still going on. But now I work for Hopkins, they're like central branch. And so I work on like news that's coming out of the university, as well as their magazine. So I'm writing articles, I'm editing articles, assigning them out to freelance writers, coming up with ideas. So yeah, that's my career so far.
Am I next?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm so sorry that I'm multitasking. My high energy puppy behind me is trying to get my attention, so I'm trying to ignore him, but he's working hard. So I also was an English major. I went to St. Mary's in Southern Maryland, which did not have a journalism program, and I also did not expect to be a journalist. I had done a little bit of like my high school newspaper, and then when I was in college, I worked for my college paper. But I sort of have um, a personality where I like to be liked, and I didn't expect that I would be able to ask the hard questions that you need to ask of sources in order to do what I thought of as journalism. So I ruled it out as a career, and I ended up working as a production assistant for we make commercials for TV shows like Bravo and TLC and
Wait. Can
Discovery. And when that,
I'm sorry to cut you off. It was glitching a little bit. Can you
sorry,
say it was glitching a little bit? Can you rewind like 20 seconds and say it again?
yeah, I bet it's my internet. After I'll try to change internets in a second, but where did I leave off?
You was basically just talking about the job you said after English major, and then you have like a personality where you like to be liked, and then that's when it started to like glitch out.
I see. So I didn't think that I could ask sources difficult questions and make them mad at me. So I sort of gave up on journalism for a while. But I found my way back in a couple of years later, and realized that my like kind of bubbly personality actually serves me very well for journalism. It's like I like to talk to people. I like to ask people questions and hear their answers. And I get to write about a wide variety of things. I'm a general assignment reporter, so I don't have one specific area that I work on. But I really like to work on stories that have to do with populations that don't necessarily often get to tell their stories. So I really like what I do, and I'm glad that I didn't give up on it.
Everyone's really cool so far. As you can tell, I have a bit of a flair for the dramatic. Um, by training, I'm actually a linguist. That is my day job. So I guess I should say the first thing about my career is that most people do not do it full time. I came to pro wrestling because I always loved it as a kid. I loved it when I was little. I loved it when I was in college. I loved it as an adult. But I thought that there were better uses of my time, and there clearly are. So, this way of having a career that is for fun on purpose while also requiring a lot of rigor is a great way for me to combine my professional training in linguistics, communication, talking to people, as well as having a solid creative outlet. I wrestle on the independent circuit, not on TV or anything yet. But one of the fun things about it is that no matter who you are and where you're coming from, there's usually a place for you, whether it's telling the stories, emptying the trash cans, throwing the trash cans, or putting together the technical aspects of the music, the lights, the sound. So even when you're hurt, which happens a lot for people like me. I started when I was 35. There's still something to keep you going and keep you involved. And that is what I think the underpinning of what really makes a career is feeling longevity and involvement and potential no matter what is coming at you.
Thank you, everybody. So I see y'all in the chat asking questions, so we gonna go to the chat and answer, so y'all can answer some of those questions. So one of the questions in the chat is, I don't know who this was for, but they asked, "Do you work with other people?" I mean, all y'all can answer, but I don't know if it was like specific to someone.
So IK is a small company. We have maybe 50 to 75 people worldwide. That's across all Asia, Europe, and we handle the North American and South American elements on this side of the map. And I also work on the support and testing team. We have about 6 or 7 people, and I have a Skype window open, and we talk to each other kind of all day long. So it's definitely not a solo job in terms of what I do. But that's not software development, is it though? Someone has to, just if any of you play video games, or if you use an app on your phone, someone has to make sure that works before you get to it. And that's kind of what my job. That's a one of the responsibilities I have in my job.
I can answer that too. So my team as a whole, which is like the communications office, is around 60 people, and we're all divided into different smaller teams within that. So like on my team, which is editorial or magazine, we have 3 editors. So our editor in chief, he's like in charge of the whole thing. Then we have an associate editor who is sort of helping him. And then I'm the editor of like one specific section of the magazine. And then we have 2 staff writers. We have a copy editor. I think that's actually it. So we like meet once a week and we talk about our progress, how things are going. And then like we also like outsource work to like freelance writers, freelance photographers, freelance illustrators. So yeah, writing is actually a very collaborative field if you were doing it professionally.
Miss Anna. Did she freeze? Yes. It's freezing. Okay.
There she is. Nice moves.
Okay, it's freezing again.
I can go if we're waiting to reestablish.
Okay.
So, yep, can't do what I do without other people. I need people to tell me when I'm good. I need people to tell me when I'm bad. And the most important person in the wrestling career is the audience. They're the ones who really give the feedback and create the show. So definitely always working with people.
Okay. Thank you all for your answers. Okay, the next question was, what is the most, okay, hold on. What is the most interesting thing about your job? I think that's what it says. Hold on. Yeah. What is the most interesting thing?
For
And
me, it is.
oh,
No, go ahead.
well, for you, I was gonna ask you, working in so many different career backgrounds, which one is your favorite? But you could also answer like, what's the most interesting thing about your job now too?
It's probably that I get to meet so many musicians. We Our product is used from everyone from someone just starting out playing an instrument, or like if you ever play piano on your phone, like if you ever use GarageBand or something like that. We're actually the company who makes most of the time the keyboard that you plug into your phone. And I get to travel a lot nowadays with the work that I do, especially with us being based in Europe. When most Americans go there, you're there on what they call a holiday or a vacation, but when I go over there, it's to work. So that's probably the most interesting part about what I do for a living now. And as far as my career paths, it's I actually don't look at the career is to be yourself. That's probably the most important element that I've established about working. And I've somehow convinced all these companies to pay me money in varying parts of the day to mostly be myself. And that's yeah. I try to use all that work experience to do the job that's being presented in front of me the best that I can do it in that moment in time. And sometimes that may come from whether I was working in an office or whether that was standing on stage at a festival, whether that was playing in a nightclub. I used to play in the Paradox nightclub, which was a legendary nightclub that we had around here. I used to throw events there, and that's assisted me with being able to engage with talent in a professional but also like direct way. Like we're here to get the job done and make sure that everything's working properly, and that's part of the job.
I would say the thing that is the most interesting to me about my job is that I just get to like talk to so many different people who all do really fascinating things in their own careers. So for magazine articles, we usually write about students or people who have graduated from Hopkins and sort of talk about what they're like doing now that's like cool or groundbreaking. So yeah, I just get to meet a lot of cool people. I recently wrote an article about an aquarium worker. So I don't know if you guys have been to the Inner Harbor recently, but in the water down there near the aquarium, there's this new exhibit that they've been working on that they're opening up that's like these floating wetlands. So I talked to one of the guys who was one of the lead workers on that. So that was really cool. So yeah, you get to meet a lot of people and learn a lot if you are a writer.
I will second that. I feel like I also get to meet a lot of really interesting people. I don't necessarily talk with them about their careers, but I do enjoy hearing what their expertise is in. So if I'm writing a story, I will talk to, an academic who spends their entire career focusing on one topic. And I think the best part of my job, the thing that makes me really well suited for it, is that I am a really curious person, and I always just like have a bunch of random questions about a bunch of random things. And in my career, I'm able to just ask those questions to people as part of my job. So sometimes I'm like, I wonder what this is about. And then I will talk to my editors and be like, hey, I'm kind of interested in this. And they'll be like, okay, make some phone calls. And then I get to just call up experts and be like, hey, I don't understand what's happening here. And sometimes it turns into a really great story. And sometimes I just get to like understand a thing.
The most interesting part of my job has to be the people as well, both the people who come to the shows for all different kinds of reasons and the people who do it. I think a lot of people have preconceived notions about wrestling fans and wrestlers, but it's been really interesting, even to me, getting to meet other people and finding the different backgrounds everyone has that brought them to wanting to have a creative career. One of the things that got me into it specifically was really liking the creativity and the physicality of it. It's a great creative outlet and it's a great physical outlet. So that's really what perked me up about it. And seeing what everyone else where everyone else comes from is also interesting in different ways every day.
Okay. Thank you for answering that question as well. I was trying to look through the comments. It's a lot of questions in here. Some of them it was kind of like answered like along the way, but one question was about how you handle stress in your job, and then another one was specifically for Mr. Sean, and it was about what exactly do you do, because it was kind of a, how you say, misconception a little bit between if you're a musician or a video game player. So I believe it's both from what I was hearing, but um in the chat they asked, could you elaborate?
So, stress. We'll go over stress at work. Stress is, I think, it's like the number one or number two like bad thing in the world, to not use any other colorful terms. And it's about make sure you work in an environment that allows you to release that stress, whether you can go to a break room, or you can take a walk outside. You can, I don't know, like some places have gyms in them, like Sylvan Learning downtown used to have a basketball court inside of their office, which I thought was like the most amazing perk that they used to have there. But it's all about how you handle stress. It's you don't and it's stress management. That's probably the most important element of it all. Everything you do in life is stressful, and it's kind of how it goes. To clarify what I do for a living, so hold on. So on your phone, you'll have apps. This is our app, the app that we may call Amplitude. This is oh wait, my camera's over here. I'm bad at this. This is a guitar modeling software, and what it allows you to do is that you would plug in the pedal into your phone. And you plug your guitar into the pedal, and that allows you to have a certain amount of like effects, like sound pedals and things like that. My job is to make sure this app works when you install it. And there's knobs in here, there's switches. Someone has to make sure that every single one of these buttons on your on an app, if you see an app, that's but someone's job is to make sure that all those things work. In terms of the video game aspect, I actually, because of my previous work experience, I pitch a lot of products to my job. For example, if anyone plays Fortnite, you may know that the Fortnite Festival, which used to be a game called Rock Band, that's now inside of Fortnite. So I've been trying to convince my job to make new guitars for that game, new keyboard for the game, new drum kits for the game. I pitched a pair of maracas for another game called Samba de Amigo, which is a maracas game on the Nintendo Switch. So there is some cross pollination between the two genres.
I'll answer the question about stress. So for me, I think that there's two components to this, and one is knowing how to set boundaries within your workplace. And well, I'll just start with that. So I think like if you are feeling overextended, like you just have way too much on your plate, I think you have to like learn that it's okay to say no, or to sort of stand your ground. Like if, for instance, you're a writer and your boss says, "Hey, like I have a story idea. Do you think you could take this on?" But you have a ton of other stuff on your plate. It's okay to say no. So it's just like about figuring out like how to advocate for yourself. And I mean, it's not like you can just turn everything down all the time because you're feeling stressed. There's definitely a balance that you can kind of figure out. But, you just like don't let people, I guess, take advantage of you in the workplace. You have to figure out how to sort of, I guess, like know how to say no, basically. And the other thing I think is just like knowing that it's okay to mess up sometimes. I think a lot of stress at work comes from wanting to be perfect and being really scared of like messing up and thinking, oh, if I screw up this little thing, then I'll get fired. And that's not the case. We all mess up. There are people in positions higher than me on our magazine who have messed things up. And I mean, that's why we issue like corrections in every issue, is because there's always going to be some little mistake. So I think as long as you are diligently doing your work, and when a mistake happens, you own it and you do what you can to fix it, it's okay. So just something to keep in mind.
I think those are really helpful tips, and I definitely apply those to my life for sure. I would add two things. One is that my work, while important, is not life or death. I am not a doctor or a surgeon or keeping the power grid on or any of those things. So it's okay if some things don't work out exactly the way that I hoped they would. If I'm a little bit late on something that I'm supposed to do, I often am late on my stories. I shouldn't be, but it's okay. It's really not the end of the world. And so that is helpful to me. And even if your job is life or death, sometimes it's okay to take some time for yourself, which is my second thing that my job is very heavy often. So I often report on politics, on poverty, on people who are experiencing traumatic situations. And that's really, really hard to go through sometimes. remember I went to a news conference one time on this woman who had lost like 17 members of her family, and it was just agonizing. And so I think that self-care is kind of a hot topic of the past decade or so, but I think it's really genuinely important. So I have stopped watching TV and reading books and movies that don't make me feel good. Like all I do is watch comedies or read light books because I like my downtime to make me feel happy and to not make me feel more worried or anxious. But if you prefer to watch horror movies or thrillers, that's what gives you joy, then that's what you should do in your downtime. I also spend a lot of time outdoors. I really like to be in nature, hiking. I'll go on walks with my dog. All of those things help me decompress when I am really stressed about something that's going on at my work.
Last but not least.
Well, if you're looking for light entertainment, can I suggest professional wrestling? um, there is kind of a lot of stress in what I do. It's not important like what a doctor does, but it can be life or death if you don't know what you're doing or if you're trying to do silly stuff. Somebody asked if I think WWE is good, and that's a tall question to answer in under an hour. But I appreciate what they do, and I think a lot of what they do is safer than what AEW does. So, as long as we're maintaining professional standards all around, which WWE does not always do, uh, that's my preference. Um, as for how I handle stress, fortunately, there is a lot of outlet built into this kind of job. But when I am feeling stressed, it's really valuable to have the community of everyone else within the promotion. Everyone knows how it feels to mess up, to get booed when you weren't trying to boo, to accidentally drop somebody and hurt them a little bit. It's a very, very forgiving area to be in. I think that the amount of creativity and physicality that wrestling has built into it also allows for a lot of forgiveness and grace in people who you wouldn't always expect it from. And so, just like everyone else said, taking time to be patient, set yourself apart, give yourself that forgiveness when you mess up and try to improve, as well as learning from the mistakes of other people. That can do a lot to mitigate built up stress and to prevent it from culminating into something bigger in the future over time.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. So, now I'm getting into specific questions. Um, they asked, "What is your signature move?" I don't know if you answered it in the chat or not. Some questions were answered in the chat.
I'll answer that in chat.
Um, Another question was, I'm trying to find it. Okay. It says, I know it does and really have a description, but what is word poverty in your own words?
One of the writers, one of the writers want to tackle that one first.
Um,
I mentioned poverty, so I'm happy to
Okay.
talk about it.
I mean, I can go.
w-
Yeah, go for it.
I would just say there is a governmental definition of poverty, which has to do with how much the average person makes and your cost of living and things like that. But I think that it really depends the context that you're using it. I would say that a lot of the time, what I'm writing about are people whose incomes are extremely low and they don't have money for essentials. But poverty can mean, I think, as you're getting to, a lot of different things. And most of which have to do with not having access to the basic things that humans should have access to.
Does anybody else want to answer that question?
Hannah, that's probably the pretty basic answer. It is, at least to me, poverty. It is to me two things. It is a classification by most governments in terms of what your fiscal level, what your fiscal income is, in terms of certain resources that can then potentially be applied back to certain areas. But it's also a, you can feel impoverished as well. Say if you pay all you spend, you got paid. Some of us got some of us adults, half of us got paid today. It is Friday, and you could pay all your bills, and you could feel impoverished after you pay all your bills. You have a job and you're able to take care of yourself, but you may not have money now to go and buy a pizza or to go out and buy a new pair of shoes. You know, you can feel that way. But I believe it was Dave Chappelle or Chris Rock which said that that's a state of mind. You know, if you are kind of simply focused on money all the time, then you will have that kind of mindset. It's about understanding where your wealth is truly, in my opinion. It comes in very many different shapes and sizes. It's not any one cut and dry. Like I think that the wrestler is probably, to me, that's the wealthiest person here. And I know for a fact that wrestlers make very, very little money starting out. It is a very tough business to get into. It is one of the oldest touring businesses that we have in this world. I think the circus is the only thing that's older than touring than wrestling, which is where they mostly learned it from. So it's tough, but I still think she's incredibly wealthy in terms of the free time that she probably has, the people that you end up meeting, and the physicality of it all. That's it. It keeps you healthy.
Okay.
Uh,
Oh,
Thank you. These pearls are fake. I just want to be very clear there. Not that wealthy, but in the truest sense, I am very fortunate. I'm glad to have a job that pays the bills and a place to live, and also have the time to engage in, yeah, what is essentially circus. But to the other question, everyone's really covered the technical definitions of poverty as well. Um, I think maybe it's important to look at poverty as uh, not just the issue of the person living in an impoverished state, but also the people around them. This is sort of oblique to the topic, but wrestling does a lot of community outreach to like Toys for Tots, canned food drives, Special Olympics fundraisers, and sometimes homeless shelters or battered women's shelters. So poverty isn't just someone who is deprived of those resources, but it's also our responsibility to take it on as something we can work on as well, no matter where we fall on the wealth and poverty literal spectrum.
I would say poverty isn't really. I mean, it does have something to do with money, but for the people who live in poverty, it's about making something out of nothing and like making the best out of what you have. Because at the end of the day, everything is not about money, and you can't buy happiness with money. So as long as you're surrounded by people who love you and you try your best to make it out of what you have, you're gonna eventually be able to get out of that state. Okay, sorry, I got a little bit of deep for a second. They have questions for the wrestlers. So they said, what made you get into wrestling and what lesson have you learned outside of wrestling that you implement in your daily life?
Cool, thank you. I tried to respond in chat, but it's not connecting to YouTube. Signature move is a version of Kurt Angle's ankle lock. And the question was, what have I learned from wrestling and
How
what
do you implement it in your daily life?
resilience, 100% resilience. I have never been very good at cardiovascular fitness. I've always been a quick learner, but not very fit. I have always been sort of cagey about receiving feedback, and I've always been really anxious to make a scene. So being a wrestler has taught me not only that it's okay to have an outlet for those things, but that I have to keep trying at those things. Um, to be very candid, I have thrown up more than once during training, and that's gross and it's very humbling. And it's up to me to decide if I want to get back up and try that again. And in spite of myself, sort of surprisingly, the answer is yes every time. So it's made me better at my other job because I know that I can do difficult things or boring things. A lot of wrestling is just setting out folding chairs and emptying trash cans. It has taught me time management because I have to run around all over the place to go to these birthday parties and fundraisers and Lions Club pool hall events. Resilience is the upshot of stress. And just like you were saying just now, as long as people don't give up in whatever form the hardships take, they're going to be able to surmount it one day.
Thank you, everyone. So the last question is for everybody. They were mainly asking the same question. So it's like, what advice would you give to the youth about sticking to their goals? And then he also said, yeah, words of wisdom.
You will have probably 4 or 5 careers throughout your entire life. Do not worry about if the first one fails or sucks. It's not a big deal. You can definitely go back to school, you can learn something different. You can not go to school and you can do whatever you want. There are really no rules in terms of being an adult. It's crazy. I set out to make video games. When I was a kid, that's all I loved to do was play video games. And when I did that, I realized I don't really want to do this anymore. And so for the last 15 years of my life, I've been a professional musician. And it's been incredibly rewarding to the point where it's even led me back to corporate America and how I have the job that I have today. And I even work with artists all over the world regarding what they call arts advocacy, which is it's understanding funding and also how to be supportive of the arts within your community. And that most important thing that I probably figured out is that you can change this at any time. It's like changing your socks.
I would also say just like success is not everything. And so like I think that like finding like success, I guess, in your career isn't about like getting as high as you can possibly go, but it's just about finding something that you mostly enjoy on the day to day that allows you to live the kind of lifestyle that you want to have financially. Um, so yeah, I think it's just finding something that you're happy doing, not necessarily like being at the top. And sometimes it's hard to remember that, but it's a good thing to just keep in mind.
I agree with both of you. I also have changed careers, and I also had jobs when I was younger that had nothing to do with what I do now. I worked in a bakery, and did I did like grant writing for the Defense Department for an internship for one summer, which was excruciatingly boring, but it gave me job experience. So I think that's important, and I think my one piece of advice would be to not be afraid to ask for help. You probably have a lot of people in your life who want to help you, who can help you, who know other people who can help you. And it's really important to not be too prideful and to recognize that you cannot do it all on your own, and you should not have to do it all on your own. So if you know somebody who knows somebody, be kind, ask them to maybe put in a good word for you. Say, do you have advice for me? Say, I actually can't do this project on my own. Can you help me with this? And I think, 9 times out of 10, people will be really willing to help you.
Everyone's had really good input, and I just want to add, it's never too late to change careers, but it's also never too soon to add extra. sometimes it is really stressful, and there's nothing you can do except deal with what you want to make your dreams come true. So I've I've done a lot of things. I have a master's degree from Oxford in linguistics. I ran for and held political office. I have an HVAC certification, and I just like wrestling. So you can still have your frustrating day-to-day job. I worked in a Christmas ornament factory. I was a cashier for 8 years. I've done door-to-door roofing sales. Um, you can have those jobs that really aren't your passion, and maybe they aren't even giving you enough money to do what you love, but you're still working towards what you love on the side. So take all the help you can get from the people who love you. Take all the help you can get from the people who don't love you, but who have nothing against you. Don't be afraid to change careers. Don't settle for anything less than your best, but also don't be afraid to be settled for a while you're building things. Too many people start to get a little bit of success, especially in wrestling. They get ahead of themselves, they quit their day job, and then they're like, I live in a motel in Texas and I can't afford gas. I wish I had stayed at Amazon as a warehouse worker. So be ambitious, but also have a plan, and don't be afraid to add to the plan as well as change the plan.
Hannah, you wanted to add one more thing?
Yeah, I actually want to hear, Mariana. I'm not sure if you agree with this, but I just wonder, in my experience, the thing that I love to do, in addition to my work, is not my primary work, right? So I love journalism, but then I have another thing that I love to do on the side, and sometimes I pay money for it, sometimes I get paid for it, but like it's okay if one of the things that you love to do is not your primary career. And it's okay if your primary career is your 9 to 5 job that makes money and you're fine with it. And then in your off hours, you wrestle. I ride horses. So
Okay. Is there anything anyone else wants to add? No? Okay, thank you everybody for joining our Bright Future Friday, and thank you to our guests for taking time out of their day, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
Thank you very much for having me. This was really awesome. To all the kids out there, enjoy the rest of your summer. Tell your parents, let y'all stay up late and eat more sugar. I don't know, but have fun. Don't worry about too much about growing up too fast.
Yeah, thank you all for your time. Everyone is really interesting. I'd love to meet you all. Work hard, play hard, and don't do any of the stuff that you see on wrestling.
Bye.